When we talk about gladiators and their weapons, we usually think of blades like this: gladius, pugio, sica, you name it. But gladiators used other weapons too, for example the famous trident of the Retiarius, the fuscina, or the spear of the Hoplomachus, the hasta. These weapons are well attested through a variety of archaeological finds, such as mosaics and reliefs. But what if that's not all? Today I want to show you a unique object, one that some believe may have been a gladiator's weapon. Let's call it the Sword of Augusta Raurica. A few weeks ago I had the opportunity to visit the Sammlungszentrum Augusta Raurica, the collection center of the Roman Museum of Augusta Raurica here in Switzerland. It's a fairly new building constructed to process all the historical finds discovered in Augusta Raurica, to clean them, to catalog them, and to store them in the depot. In total, more than 10 million objects are kept here. Some already fully processed, others still covered in soil, waiting to be examined by an archaeologist. During my visit, my brothers from Ludus Ars Gladiatoria and I were shown how the archaeologists at the museum work. After a short introduction, we had the chance to see the Sword of Augusta Raurica in full detail. This was an emotional experience for me, as I had the opportunity to take it into my own hands. I like to believe that I am the first gladiator in nearly 2000 years to hold this weapon. And here's a picture of me holding it. Obviously, I am wearing plastic gloves so as not to damage the iron the sword is made of. It instantly felt like something that would work very well as an actual weapon. The weight distribution is still pretty good, and the form of the sword is a mix between a longer gladius or a spatha and a shorter version of a spear like the hasta. Interestingly enough, the sword has no blade in a traditional sense. Instead, it consists of a tapered rectangular iron bar with a pointed tip. It looks as though the upper third was bent over time through use against heavy objects such as scuta or parmula. The weapon now has a total weight of 609 grams. We have to take into consideration that the blade was coated to prevent further damage from rust, and that it has also lost some of its original weight due to corrosion. I therefore conclude that the original weight of the weapon would have been around 800 to 900 grams, making it lighter than a sword of similar length, but heavier than a simple pugio. The weight distribution is designed so that most of the weight lies in the handle, with the pommel and the guard being hollow. I further suspect that these parts were filled with organic material, such as wood, which has rotted away over time. The guard appears to fit well within the design of blades used for military purposes and is round in shape. Here are some technical details of the weapon. It consists of iron. Unfortunately, we do not know the exact type of iron used to forge it. The total length is 74.5 centimeters, while the blade itself has a length of 61 centimeters. The handle, including the hilt and the pommel, is 13.5 centimeters long. The grip is about 7 centimeters long. The pommel is about 5.2 centimeters long and 4.5 centimeters wide. And the guard is about 3 centimeters long and 5.6 centimeters wide. The blade is rectangular and tapers towards the end, starting at a width of about 1.2 centimeters and finishing in a pointed tip. But the real question is, what was this weapon actually used for? From its design, it is most definitely a piercing weapon with a longer reach than a typical gladiator sword. Its weight and the distribution of the weight make it very nimble. It is also very hard to spot the blade during combat, making it a constant and nearly invisible threat. The curved tip could be intentional, but we suspect it was damaged over time through extended use. I tried to recreate the weapon. Here you can see the replica. and also the combat style that comes with it, or with using this type of sword. Most likely it had two main purposes. One would be the act as a constant threat and therefore a center of attention for the opponent. With the opponent focused on whether I attack or harass him with the longer weapon, I can use my offhand, holding my pugio, to attack. Since I would not only use the sword but also the pugio, I would effectively be a dual-wielding combatant. We know from different sources that this was a technique used by the hoplomachus, having a hasta, or a spear, in the right hand and a pugio and the parmula in the other one. The other purpose would be the reach advantage it provides, making it an excellent weapon to overcome an opponent's defenses. Of course, against a murmillo with a rather large shield, it is very difficult to land a hit. But if we take into consideration the pugio in the left hand, the sword can be used to distract, to open the opponent's defense, and then strike with the secondary weapon. It is a very effective weapon indeed. Previously, I briefly mentioned the curved tip of the blade. We believe it is not intentional, and for that argument we have to consider the only other possible source, a small bronze figurine of a hoplomachus gladiator now exhibited in the Neues Museum Berlin in Germany. It depicts a hoplomachus holding a very similar weapon in his right hand. Interestingly enough, this weapon also shows some bends and damage in the frontal third of the blade. It appears to be very similar to the weapon found in Augusta Raurica and may indicate that this type of weapon, if it is indeed the same weapon, had a tendency to bend over time. Once bent, it would no longer be as effective, and it is possible that the weapon would then be discarded, with the fighter switching to the pugio previously held in the left hand. There are also depictions of hoplomachi without a spear as their main weapon. What is particularly interesting about the figurine is that the handle is clearly visible. You can see a form of guard and a sort of pommel, which strongly suggests that it is not a broken spear. The presence of a proper handle is the strongest argument that this could be the same type of weapon. Another interesting aspect is the location where it was found. Augusta Raurica is the largest Roman archaeological site in Switzerland. In 1962, when the city of Augst decided to sell parts of the land to homeowners, extensive archaeological excavations were carried out to explore what lay beneath the surface. They uncovered typical Roman insulae, rectangular plots of land on which buildings were constructed. Insula 30, that's the insula where the blade was found, initially consisted of wooden buildings which were later replaced with stone houses. In the 2nd century AD, these were then upgraded into a large villa within the city, most likely inhabited by a wealthy individual. Interestingly enough, it was within the complex that the world-renowned gladiator mosaic of Augusta Raurica was discovered, and also the weapon in question. This suggests that the person living there may have had some relations or connections to gladiators. Perhaps it was an ex-lanista or a wealthy editor responsible for the organization of the games in Augusta Raurica. This would not be far-fetched, as Augusta Raurica as a Roman city had at least 3 amphitheaters during its course of existence, making gladiatorial games an important aspect of the city. So what do you think it is? Is it a rare gladiatorial weapon or something else entirely? Keep in mind, there is nothing quite like it that has ever been found anywhere else. It is a unique piece of history, which is exactly what makes it so fascinating to me. And as one of the few people in the world who had the opportunity to hold it, and as a gladiator myself, it still blows my mind every time I see it or I think about it. I hope you enjoyed this deep dive into Roman gladiatorial history. Make sure to like, subscribe, and leave a comment. Help me build the biggest channel dedicated to Roman gladiators, and I hope to see you in the next video. Valete!